Hello learners, in this video we are going to learn about the next concept in Python. It's functions. How to create function, what's the meaning of function. Right. So if you're from any other coding background like C or C++ or maybe Java, so you already know about what's mean by function. I can say function is a block of statement, or I can say group of statement which will do a specific task. Advantage of in Python or functions in a Python, right? So first advantage, you can say that once a function is defined, you can call the same function, okay, n number of times. That means any number of times, okay. How many times you require, that many time you can call the same function again and again. Now that will do the task specified in the particular functions. So if you have a large program, so you can divide the large program into smaller pieces, okay, for based on your task, and we can create a separate function for that, and we can use those function as we need. Now, in Python, the functions are capable of returning multiple values from a particular functions. Okay, now this is one more advantages in the Python functions. Function, I can say syntax for a function. Now function is defined with the help of def keyword. Okay, the def keyword. Using this def keyword, we can define a function. After that, we are going to say so I'll write the name of the function. I'll say, for example, if I want to create a function for adding two numbers. Okay, now I can say, I will create one function, say add function. Right. So now I'll create two variables here, a and b. Now I'll say print a plus b. Now this function will add the two values. Right. So now how to call the function? Now when I write a particular function, now this is just a definition, right? So I'm defining a function, and what are the tasks going to perform? I'm going to write inside the particular function. So or I can say to execute this particular function, you have to call the function with the help of function name, right? So I'll write add, and with this parenthesis. Now this particular notation will called as calling a particular function, right? Now you can directly run the program. So now I got a value as 30, right? So if I call one more time, say add function, or I'll add one more add. Right. So in this case, I got the same answer for all the things, 30, 30, and 30, right? So that means once function is created, you can call any number of times. Now, one thing to remember, when I create a variable inside this particular function, now I'm going to initialize with this particular values, 10 and 20. For example, I need a different value, or I can say when I call the function each time, now I have to add a different value to that particular function. Now, in this case, I can pass an argument to a particular function telling that I'm going to like add those two numbers, right? So how to add this argument to a particular function? Instead of writing this line of code, so I'm passing two argument to a function. That's one is a, comma, b. Okay. So a, comma, b. Now, when I add some argument to a particular function, while calling the function, you have to mention those two arguments, or you have to pass the value to that particular argument, right? So when I say a, so I'll write for a, I can say 10, comma, 20. In the same way for b, I'll write -9, comma, right, 7. In the same way, I'll add 12, comma, 34. Right. So when I run the program, now I got the different answer for the things. Okay, based on our input values, now the function will take the values for a and b, and will go to add those numbers. Okay, now this is called as a parameterized function, or okay, or I can say passing an argument to a particular function. Right. In the same way, you can add any number of argument to that particular function. So suppose one thing you have to remember, if you're passing two arguments, I cannot provide. Now this argument should be matched with your values, right? So that means two argument means you have to pass two values. Suppose if I add one more argument, say 34, now the Python will throw a directly error. Okay, saying that add takes only two positional argument, but three were given. Okay, so the argument should be matched with the number of values. Okay, right. So next concept I can say this is called as passing an argument. Now, when I say in the previous function without any argument, right? So next concept you can say return give value from the function. For example, I'm doing a particular task in this particular function, and I need the result of that particular task used somewhere else in the other program or maybe in the next program. So in that case, I want to return a particular value from the particular function. I don't want to print the value. I need this value in some other calculation, right? So in that case, I can use the return type functions, right? So for example, I'll add one more function. Okay, I'll create, for example, I'll create a list here. Yeah, I'll create one list here. Now, suppose I want to print all the, or I can say, I want to create a new list which contains, okay, only the even numbers. Okay, only the even numbers. Now, for that, I'm creating a new list, say B. I'll say empty list. Okay, B empty list. Now I'm going to, now I'm going to say I want to filter out all the even numbers. Now I can write. So I'll create a function for that. I'll say define even. Okay. Right. For I can say even numbers for even numbers. After that, I'm going to pass a list to that, but it means I want to pass a list to that particular function. So I'll say a list. It may be any value. Right? It's say one list lst. Right. Now I can say I'll create a new list here, B list, to store the even values. After that, I'm going to use a loop and say for okay, so value in okay, say lst list sorry, lst. Now I can say I'll write if value mod 2 is equal to 0. I can say b dot append values. Right. Now after that, all the iteration is complete. So I'm going to return the value from a function saying return. Okay. So now this indentation is very important in the case of Python, because where I have to return the value, because after the completion of every element in a particular list, then I want to return a value. So this return statement will become like this. Yeah. Okay. Return P. Right. Now I'm going to use this even filter. So I'll have to call the function. Now I can say even. Okay, so even now A. Now A is a list. I'm going to pass this. Right. So when I run the program, so you won't get any answer here. Okay, even though even returning your answer, now I'm not going to store this returned value. Okay, in here. So I want to use one more list. Say even list is equal to, I'll say even of A. Now I'm going to print this even list. Okay. Okay, now I got the even number list. So from the particular list, right? So in this case, now what happens when I write a particular function here, B, now I'm going to iterate over the entire list, and I'm checking whether it's mod 2 is equal to 0. That means I'm checking whether it's even or odd. Now after that, when it's even, I'm going to add these even values to the list B. After entire process will be completed, now I'm going to return this particular B, okay, I can say list B from the function. So when I return the value, now I'm going to store that return value in the event list. I'm going to print that event list. Okay. So now this is the procedure for returning a value from a particular place. Right. So in this case, we'll go to run one more pro problem arise when I use this. For example, when I said even list LST, when I use a parameter to that, what happens if I give an integer value? Okay, I'll say even of 10. Okay, because Python is a dynamically typed language. Now, when I say 10, it's also an object. Now, LST will be considered as a 10. But when I say integer, I cannot iterate over the integers, right? So it will show directly through the error. Int object is not iterable. Now, to avoid these type of conflicts, so I can say I can use like one more notation here saying lst colon. Now, which type of argument or I can say I want to pass. So I'll say list. Okay, right. When I say LST, list. Now, in this case, now what happens when you pass this even of 10, now it directly throw the error saying expected list but got int instead. So I'll get a warning message saying you have to pass an integer here. Okay. Now I can mention. And also you can specify the return type also here. Like so I want I'm saying this list. Now, this notation will say that I'm going to return a list from the even function. Okay, now this is the right good way of writing a Python function because we are saying like what the type and also what the type of return type of a particular function. Okay, right. So now this is the concept you have to remember when I working with the functions in a Python.